New this morning, a new report shows that Americans are cutting back on spending and pausing their long-term savings goals. According to Primerica, about 71% of middle-income Americans say their earnings are falling behind the cost of living. So joining us now, the CEO of Primerica, Glenn Williams. Thanks so much for joining us this morning, Glenn. Can you tell us more about what new survey data is revealing about consumer confidence right now?
John, our quarterly financial security monitor indicates once again that there's a building frustration among middle-income families. It's been going on for a number of years now as the compounding effect of the cost of living is really putting a lot of stress on those families. On the other side of the same coin, it's amazing how positive and resilient they are about their prospects to be able to battle through this tough time and still make progress financially in their lives.
What is your advice, though, for people that are worried that their income is falling behind the cost of living?
Well, I think they're worrying because that is actually what has happened up until probably at the beginning of this year when we saw our companion survey, our household budget index, indicated for the first time in probably 3 or 4 years that incomes were outpacing inflation. And then, of course, the challenges in the Middle East that sent gas prices through the roof reversed that trend, and consumers started falling behind again. So they're going to have to be very careful. They're going to have to prioritize. They're going to have to make some sacrifices maybe to make sure that the most important priorities are put ahead of the niceties and the luxuries of life. Even though those luxuries might be simple, I think some delayed gratification is going to be necessary to be able to power through this.
Well, let's get into that a little bit here, because how can families work to balance a budget when the price for goods and services rises so quickly and usually doesn't go back down, or if it does, it's not by much?
Yeah, it seems like it's a never-ending challenge. Inflation only gets less worse. It never gets better. And so I think these families are going to have to look through their budget. We sit down with families and encourage them to look for what's falling through the cracks. And it's amazing, even though families will say, I don't have any extra money, many times they'll find some they didn't realize was in their budget. Or maybe a little break is emerging through lower tax withholding, or maybe some niceties, some subscriptions that they don't use as much as they thought they would, and they can cut back on some of those that have very little negative impact on their family and free up just a little money to get started paying down debt. High interest rate debt is a real danger, and also saving for retirement and protecting their family's income.
Well, speaking of that, can you talk about the importance of keeping that long-term financial plan?
It's absolutely critical, because time is on your side when you start early. Time works against you when you start late. So it's really critical, we believe, for families to start something now to get their financial house in order. Again, get those debts paid down and get started saving. Those are the two things that time is your ally if you get started early. And it's not easy. We recognize that it's difficult. You can see from the attitudes in this survey, there's a lot of stress coming through, but there is that optimism that there is a path forward. If you apply yourselves, stick at it, and think long term, we believe families can make it to financial independence by retirement.
Well, election season also just around the corner. What kind of an impact can an election cycle have on the economy and a family budget as well?
I think, John, it adds more uncertainty. One of the frustrations that we see in that survey is the uncertainty. And of course, when you're uncertain about what the political landscape might be in the future, that adds even more uncertainty to the challenge. So I hope that our elected officials will recognize these frustrations of middle income and all families, actually, and make sure that the health of our economy, the cost of living, is at the forefront of their efforts to improve life for us in the U.S. And we'll keep that at the front. But I do think the uncertainty of the election just adds to the frustration of families.
All right, Glenn Williams of Primerica, thanks so much for your insight this morning. Good to have you.
It's great to be with you.